Hi all, welcome to the session on how with React and Angular. So this session basically is out of fascination. Uh, Out of fascination, if you see 3 years back, there were more people were working only on server side. There were no thoughts on front end. And if you take now, there is more stress on front end development and full stack and React, Angular, Webpack. So much is happening. Why this sudden transition happened, and what were the problems in the old server-side templating which resulted in this change. This is what we are going to see it in this session. So the agenda for this session is just a simple introduction, and we will be seeing about the old age, that is server-side templating rendering, and we will see what was happening, what were the problems, and will be seeing a short demo how it worked. Okay, and then we will jump into client side rendering, how it is happening, and how it is using REST API, and the problems in that, and how it was overcome with bundling and Webpack and module systems. And as an example for client side rendering, we will be seeing Angular in my case. So we will see how Angular made this client side rendering possible, and how it reduced the development time, and how it supported modular and tooling, and what is SPA in a general way. What is SPA in client-side rendering and Angular? We'll see that, and we will be seeing a short demo on a Angular application. In client-side rendering also, we will be seeing a Webpack demo. Okay, let's jump into the session now. So, as I told, this session will be a outcome of a fascination. How in a short time the Angular, React, and Webpack, there is more stress on that, not before. Okay, this fascination led to this session. Before we start with the actual session, I just want you to understand what is client and what is server. Client is nothing but the system, okay, which the user uses to interact with your website. That is a client. Server is where the complete code, your server backend code and your client side code has been hosted. Okay, so don't confuse that client side has any code. No, even client side code is present in your server, and whenever you need it, you have to ask it by putting the URL, and it goes to the server, and the server gives you that code, maybe the HTML code or data based on what technology you are using. Okay, so let's move on. So this is the main topic for discussion for us. What is server side rendering and what is client side rendering? Server side rendering is our old age where everything was server side. Okay, the server side was actually creating HTML and given to the browser, and browser was simply rendering the HTML page. Okay, but in client side rendering, what happened is they thought actually why we need to put all the code in the server side. They want to they brought in all the some of the logic to the client side. Okay, and they gave a little more work to the JS by bringing in not all the logic, partial, maybe 50%, 50-50 based on your application. Okay, so this actually created more JS in the client side, and subsequently it resulted in more work in the client side on the JavaScript, and more work on JavaScript means subsequently more frameworks got evolved, more JS frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue got evolved from this. Okay, so let us move with client side rendering first. Server side rendering or templating, both are same. So what was really happening in our old age? Server server side templating, that age. If you go back 5 years or so, you will remember J2EE, JSP, servlet, and what it was actually doing. We were writing the code, okay, and that code, and we will be asking for hello.jsp, and the server will work on that, and it will give the complete HTML to you, and the client was just, your browser was just rendering that HTML. This is what, as you see here in the sixth example, you can see the HTTP actually returns the complete HTML. So in this case, the browser work was very minimal. It was used just for simple validations and nothing else. In this age, you can remember, if you go back 5 years, you will see all the pages. Whenever the user clicks on hello.jsp, it will go to the server, get you hello.jsp. Similarly, home.jsp, it will go to the server and give you home.jsp. So this is what was happening in this server side rendering age. Okay, so these are all the old server technology: Java server pages, active server pages, Java and Java server pages. Okay, and I just want you to understand more on the problems. Actually, these problems led to the client side rendering. That's what we are in now. Okay, so if you see in this case, you will see frequent server requests, because the server has to give you the HTML. The client doesn't have anything, any intelligence. It has to completely rely on the network and the server, which is both costly operations. Okay, and the second is slow page rendering. Every time you do any minor change also, it has to completely load the page. Okay, and you'll have full page reloads, and it is not very site interaction. Every time the user presses on any button, it has to go to the server, and he will maybe seeing a loading screen, and then the complete page will load. So it is not a very rich site interactions, and these are the problems which led to client side rendering. Okay, the most important issue here is frequent server request, which is very costly. In a place where the network connection is very slow, this will be this may lead to a business loss, maybe. Okay, so let us see a short demo on this. I have a simple Eclipse application where I have a JSP file. Okay, you can see it here. I have a simple JSP page. Let me start it. Okay, let me start it in the Tomcat server. Let me open it in Tomcat server, and you can see it here. The page has loaded for me. Let me open that. So this is the page, and this page comes from the server. You can see it here. Let me open the network and show you. Whenever the client requests for project, it actually goes to the server, and the server is sending the complete HTML as response, and the browser is doing nothing. It is just, the rendering engine is just rendering this HTML file for you. Okay, this is the simple thing it is doing. And you can understand, if you have many pages, it will, for all the, even a simple change, it will go to the server and get you the complete HTML file. Okay, which is a, yeah, very costly operation. Okay, let me go back to my slide. Okay, so let us now proceed with client side rendering, what we are right now. Okay, client side templating. What really happened in this? Yes, people thought, let us move some of the logic to the front end. Okay, whatever logic can be moved, they moved to the front end. This resulted in more JS files on the front end. And they said that, why we have to go to the server for HTML? let us use the JS to create HTML. Okay, here in the client side rendering world, the JS creates the HTML for you. You will not go to the server for any HTML. You will go to the server only for data. Okay, you will ask even that data from the backend through a REST API. Okay, REST API protocol we will use to ask data from the server. This is what I have mentioned here. If you see in the diagram here, you will understand that all right now there are many ways you can connect to that website, right? You can use a mobile app, Android app, or you can access it from a tablet, anything. So now the server is constant, and server will be given the data through a REST API. Okay, so only the client side, how it maybe iOS use different ways, but they also will be using JS, but that files may be different, that frameworks may be different. So they access through the same REST API call, and the server will be a constant thing which gives you the data. Maybe for iOS, the CSS may be different. How it shows to the user may be different. For Android app, it may be different. For website, it may differ. But the data is same, is constant. And that can be got through REST API from the server. Okay. So this is, yeah, just brief about how the REST API works. What are the calls available in REST API? You can actually do through using REST API. You can do get call, post call, put call, or delete call based on what you need. Maybe if you are deleting something, you use delete. If you are going to put something, you use put. You are going to update anything, you use post. And if you want any data from the server, you use get. Okay, and even in this case, here they moved so much JS file to the front end, so this also led to some issues, or led to some inventions, I may say that. Okay, more JS files in the front end means some people, it has to be more modularized so that you can understand. So we got so much stress on module systems, because you have so many files, all this should be linked. So module system became very necessary in the age of client side rendering. Okay, because each JS file may require some other file, so module systems become necessary. And all the JS files also need to be imported in a proper order. So we needed some systems to bring import the JS files. So in this case, Webpack became more necessary, and even the module systems got evolved. Okay, we will be seeing module system in maybe in the next slide. And other thing is, if you I was saying that the more JS file got to the front end. So more JS file in a real time, you may see some hundreds and thousands of JS file. In that case, you can't be asking the server each time the JS file, which will be a very costly operation. So they decided, when the client logs in itself, you give the all the JS file to the browser. Let the browser use those JS file to generate the HTML. So for putting in all JS, they needed something called bundling. And in that bundling, we have so many ways you can achieve. You have many tools for bundling. We have Gulp, Grunt, and many other tools. And Webpack is one of the popular tools which we use in Angular CLI. Okay, So in our next slide, let us see speak about module systems and bundling, which got which got very much needed because of these problems. So actually, I believe that necessity is the mother of invention. Okay, so this necessity created those module systems and bundling to be very much needed. So what is module systems? Module is nothing but a single independent reusable unit. Okay, in JavaScript, as I just told you, we will have many files, right? And every file is a single module, and we and each file is dependent on another module. One file, a module is dependent on other module. For connecting these modules, we needed module systems. Okay, before ES6, we had two module systems, that is CommonJS and AMD. Okay, these module systems, but these module systems were not part of JavaScript. You had to import them to use it in JavaScript. But in ES6, they there was some module system called ES6 module system, which was actually a part of JavaScript. You need not import anything to use it in JavaScript. It was already available in JavaScript. Uh, to understand what is ES6 module system, what is the ES standard basically? ES standard is a standard based on which your JavaScript is written. This ES standard gets released every year basically. They released ES 3, 4, 5, 6, and now it is ES 9. Okay, and every browser actually follows this ES standard to write their that is to create their JavaScript engine. And every browser is not in the same level. If you see now, Chrome will be would have implemented some features of ES6. Maybe Firefox might not have implemented. So, and every browser in each update they try to implement some features of ES standard. So it is a continuous process where they continually follow this ES standard to update their JavaScript engine. Okay. So let's see an example for CommonJS and ES6 module system. CommonJS you may find it in Node.js basically. So CommonJS module system. So as I told earlier, a module is a single reusable unit. Okay. Right here I have a code which has a which actually squares the number provided to it. To use this function square in my main.js, what I need to do is I need to export this functionality. That's what I have done here. I export this functionality. This is how we export in CommonJS. Okay, module.export. We give what it needs to export, and to use it in main.js, we basically require that functionality, square function in main.js, and I square 11 so that I receive 121. In ES6 module system, it will be different. Okay, here I use export keyword, export function square x. Okay, and here in main.js I would have used import. A small issue here, let me correct it. So I use import, basically I use import to get this function from lib.js, and then I the 11 square 11, which will result in 121. This is about ES6 module systems. Okay, so this is about module systems which got evolved because of this client side rendering, because there was a tremendous need to connect all your JS files properly. And other important thing we needed was bundling. because we had hundreds and thousands, and we can't each time you can't ask from the server each JS file. That was not going to be efficient, and it is a very costly operation. So they came up with bundling. So when the user logs in, I will give the complete JS file. For this, we needed the bundling of all the JS file into a single JS file, and this single JS file will be used by your browser. Okay. For bundling, we had so many bundling tools like Gulp, Grunt, Webpack, and so on. Webpack is one of the most popular bundler. Okay, its more major purpose is to bundle, and the thing you need to provide for Webpack for doing that is the entry file from where it has to start, and completely bundle all the required JS files. Okay, if you think index or your application starts with index.js, you just provide the entry file as index.js, and from index.js it will try to see what all are imported. From index.js, it will go to sum.js. From sum.js, you have imported two other files. It will just bundle the complete JS files by doing so. And one of the main purpose is bundling, but with Webpack you can also create a dev server, which is used actually when you start Angular CLI. It actually starts a Webpack dev server, and it can also be used for converting your ESX code to native JavaScript, basically by using Babel or a TypeScript compiler on anything. It can be used to convert. And other thing you can do is you can convert SAS to CSS, and you can minify the code, and you can make maybe your CSS code is distributed across your file system. You can make it copy all the CSS to a single file. Maybe for example style.css, it can be made. Likewise, you can also make the images copy to a separate folder. Okay, so let's move. So this is what happens in Webpack. Okay, you have many JS files in your application, CSS files, all distributed across your file system. The Webpack bundler makes it into a single file. You have a single JS file, single CSS file, and single PNG file. So this is what it does primarily. Okay, let's see a demo to understand this better. So let me go to my Angular, not Angular code, my Webpack. Okay, this application I also have it in my GitHub. I will be sharing the link in the description. Okay, so that you can check out in your mission. So this application primarily what it does is it has three files: index file, sum file, and image file, and it tries to randomly show a image, and it tries to sum two numbers. The sum functionality is available in sum.js, okay, which sums two numbers. And also note that this is actually in arrow function, which is available only in ES6. It is not available in ES5, that is native JavaScript. This is index.js is my entry file. It actually makes use of sum and image. It imports sum from sum, and it imports image. Image, what it does is it actually adds to your body a random image. Okay, and I also do a CSS with over this image. I create a border in image.css. If you see it here, you will see I'm actually creating a border. So basically in this application I have three files: index.js, sum.js, and image.js. Okay, and using Webpack, what I want to do is I want to bundle it into a single file, maybe bundle.js. Okay, for Webpack, to start with Webpack, you have to first create webpack config.js. Okay, so this is the configuration you need to provide to Webpack. Okay, as I told earlier, for bundling your files, it needs a entry file. So in this case, my entry file is index.js. From this, it will understand it has two more files which it has to bundle it into a single file. And you have to give the name for the bundle. Here I give the given the name as bundle.js, and I'm telling this file should be present inside build. And as I told earlier, Webpack can be used for converting ESX to ES5. I want to convert all the code which I have written in ES6 to ES5. So for that I am using something called Babel loader, and I am saying that the Babel loader has to run for the over all the JS file which I have it in my application. So this has to be specified in the rules inside module. So the other thing I told you is you can move all your CSS into a single file. Here using extract text plugin, I am saying all the CSS needs to be moved. I am passing all CSS over to CSS loader. From that I am using extract text plugin to extract all the CSS file to style.css inside the build file. Okay. Once you run the webpack now, you should be seeing two files, bundle.js and style.css. So let us run the webpack now. So what I need to do is when you actually take it from the git, you run npm install you so that you install all the dependencies like webpack, webpack CLI, Babel loader, which is needed for this for this application to run. So let me run now. I will have to give for webpack to run. I have to give npm run script webpack. Sorry, it is not webpack. It is build. So this should start the webpack for me, and it has to create. It will be creating the bundle for me. So it has now created the bundle for me, and as I told you, it has created two files, style.css, where it has the entire CSS for my application, and bundle.js, where I have all the three CSS file, all the three JS files. Here you can see the sum.js, and you can see that the arrow function is being converted to native JavaScript using Babel has converted it for me. There is some file here, and you will be also seeing the image file. Here you can see the image file, and you will also see the index file. So index file is also present here. Okay. The total thing you can see it here somewhere. Okay. So this is about thing. So to test this application, I will have a index.html where I will import this bundle.js, and I will use the CSS in link, and I will use the CSS style.css inside build. So let me open this file in Chrome. So this application is actually present in Webpack sample, and Webpack maybe that index.html file. And here you can see a random image. It is supposed to change. Okay. Okay, the random image you are seeing, and you should also be seeing the console. Okay. Hope this makes you understand Webpack better. Okay. So let's move with our slides. So what we gain from this to understand this. So it is with the client side rendering, you can understand that many of the issues we saw in server-side rendering has been fixed here. We got a much more improved experience to the user because we are going to the server only for data. The HTML is created by JS. So every time the user clicks on any button, only if there is a data required from the server, it is going to go to the server. Else the browser itself using the JS using the JS, it is going to create the HTML. So it will be very fast. And the other important thing it will happen is, so the deployment, if you see, it got easier with client-side rendering. Deployment, we have before we used to deploy all the JS files which were written for front end. Right now, we just need to just deploy the bundle file alone. That is enough. We don't need to deploy all the JS file with the which the as a developer we wrote. We need not do hundreds of JS. We need not deploy. We just need to deploy the index.html, the CSS bundle, and the JavaScript bundle. So this made deployment easier and rollbacks also easier in client-side rendering. So let's move on to the next slide. So these words you would have heard: Angular, React, and Vue. These were all JavaScript framework which implemented client-side rendering, and these frameworks have helped the movement to client-side rendering with all the three. Okay, in all the three frameworks, you will see that the development time is tremendously reduced because they through these frameworks, you need not do that DOM interaction. What we used to do, right? Document.getElementID used to interact with the DOM. Okay, invoke, use the DOM and place the values there. That was not needed in all these frameworks. You just through the component, you just need to say that you need to place that through maybe in Angular we use interpolation, and we say that if you set the value to the value in the component, okay, and that component if you mention that component value, okay, component member, if you mention it in the HTML, that will be automatically binded between the component class and the HTML through binding. You would have heard the term two-way binding, single way binding. So this DOM interaction was already taken care by these frameworks. Okay, so this reduced the development time tremendously. And when you write in these frameworks, it the modularity automatically comes to your code. So anyone sees your code can easily understand. Through these frameworks, you can easily divide it as modules, so that maybe an employee module and user module you can divide. So or these frameworks automatically bring in modularity, and they also helped in intelligent support to your code, so that development become furthermore faster. Intelligent support is when you write Java or .NET, you can see that when you press on dot, you will see all the methods available in that function, in that object. So that was made possible because of these frameworks. Okay, the tooling support. So let us now see all these in detail. Let us take Angular for example. I'm not going to speak about all these frameworks. Let us go with Angular to understand this. So in previous days, you would have remember we used to write document.getElementID or input_id.text. We used to do for DOM interactions. But when you use these framework, when you use Angular, this is not at all needed. You need not do any DOM manipulation. It is internally handled by Angular. You just need to say by a component member, instance member, you will maybe set it to a value, and that you need to mention it in the HTML. that will be automatically binded by Angular. You need not write any DOM manipulation code. You need not do that. This actually, the Angular says that you just focus on the business logic. You don't write the DOM interaction code. So that by this way, it actually made the developer uh, improve the time. Okay, it reduced tremendous time. Okay, and it made it to focus only on business logic. Okay, so this is about business logic. So if you speak about modularity and tooling in Angular, Angular, as you know, that it is being written in TypeScript. So TypeScript is, what is TypeScript? It is a superset of JavaScript. So every browser, as I said before, every browser are not in the same level of JavaScript. Okay, so if you use a feature of ES sets, you will not be very sure that whether that will be supported in all browsers. So written in TypeScript, you can be sure that because the TypeScript code gets converted to native JavaScript code, what all browsers understand. So writing in TypeScript is more preferred, right? And then using any latest feature of ES6 in your JavaScript because you may not be sure. So write in TypeScript in any IDE, you will get the automatically the intelligent support. Okay, and yeah, Angular, you write your code in components, and component build up your component in modules. So you automatically get that structure to your code, modularity to your code. Angular is a component-based MVC design. So this helps you to build that modularity in your code. And as I said, through TypeScript, you will get that tooling support. Okay, and Angular is a structural framework for develop dynamic web apps. Okay, it brings in a structure for your code. Okay, as I told you, through Angular we are getting the TypeScript support, and we are getting a speed and performance, and we are getting modularity and mobiles. You can easily through Angular you can easily support mobiles and tablets. Okay, through Ionic, basically, if you use Ionic, you can actually support mobiles and tablet in Angular. Okay, so coming to another important question, what is SPA? SPA is nothing but you in single page rendering design, you have only one HTML. You don't as in server side rendering, you have multiple pages got from the server, but in single page application you have only one HTML. Okay, in the same HTML, based on what the user clicks on, different HTML gets stuffed into the same HTML. Whatever the single HTML page get stuffed inside that. Okay, but this being done by the JS. JS with its intelligence is putting in inside the HTML files inside the same file, but you still have only one HTML. Okay, in Angular we have a routing frameworks. Using that, whatever route the user clicks on, that particular component gets into the same index.html file. Okay, so as I told you, it has only one HTML and it has less bandwidth because we only get data, so we don't need that bandwidth of server-side rendering. And as I showed you in previous example, the JS transformation, the server side was actually creating the HTML for you, but now the HTML transformation have moved to the client side. Okay, because the JS is only creating the HTML for you, and it is more of like a template engine running in your browser. It has become like a template engine running in your browser. Okay, so let us move to a Angular demo to understand all this stuff. So I will open my Angular learning project, which I will be that GitHub I will be sharing in the description. You can actually use that. Okay, this is my Angular application. It is a simple application which shows you an employee list. With that list, you can add employees or delete employees, and you can actually do anything with that employee list. Let me start it. For starting your Angular project, you need to say ng-serve. So the ng-serve, what it does is it actually compiles using Webpack. It bundles all the JS files, because in this application you can see I have many components. I mean, I have so many components like the employee components, add employee, employee list, login component. So all these JS files, right? It using Webpack, it bundles, and it Angular CLI actually starts a Webpack dev server. Inside that Webpack dev server, it hosts this application. Actually, that Webpack configuration file is not exposed in Angular CLI. That configuration file is not exposed, but internally it does this. Here the bundle file is called as main.js. Okay, let me, and also this application uses a backend node server. I think I would have already started it. I've already started it. That GitHub also I will be sharing. Basically what you need to do is you have to say do a npm install and say node server.js for starting that server, and this application will go to the server for getting the data. Now let us open that application. So by default it is hosted in 4200. Okay, so you have to say login. I want to open the login page. So it has provided the login page, and for I have not used any database. uh, just I have hard coded a username and password in my server file. Just you have to give abc and pass for logging in basically. So give a say login and you will see the employee list. Okay, so this is about this application which shows you the employee, and you can delete or add and do anything. So let me show you the bundle creation in this case. So when you do a login here, you can see that what comes from the server. You will see all this style.js and all this are third party stuff, your router, and this is the main thing, main file we require to understand. So this is the bundle file which the Angular has created using Webpack. You can see the Webpack word anywhere, so you can understand it was created using Webpack. And this file has all my JS file, all my components has been put inside the same file. Okay, see here the many all the files, because in my application code you can see so many files that has been put inside the same file, the main.js file. I have so many JS files. It has been done, put inside the same main.js, and this file has all the HTML, employee HTML and everything. Okay, let me, so you can see even the HTML file is present in main.js file. Now let me log in. Okay, and let me do this. Okay, now when you do a thing, and here if you see it requires some data, so for this data alone you will see a call to the server. If you do this, okay, you will see the this get employees is not getting anything. It is just using REST API call. It is getting the data alone. Okay, let me now call employee add. Click on employee add. You will see that there will be no call, but because this employee add is just a HTML which will be created using main.js. So main.employee add did not produce any call to the server. Hope you understood this. Angular application. So I hope you understood how the front end gained limelight with Angular and React. Okay, with this session. Thank you for your time. For anyone has to help you, kindly subscribe to get my future videos. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.